We are Group 46 and today we'll be presenting on the LVMH and Tiffany & Co negotiation.
LVMH is a French company which was founded in 1987. It is the world leader in the luxury industry, owning 75 iconic brands across 6 different sectors including wines and spirits, fashion, perfumes and cosmetics, watches and jewellery and selective retailing. It owns major brands like Louis Vuitton and Marc Jacobs. It is the only company in the world that competes in all sectors of the luxury market. LVMH have over 5,000 stores worldwide, generating €44.7 billion in annual revenue. Tiffany & Co is a luxury brand that has a vast history within the industry. Founded in 1837, it became associated with a luxurious lifestyle, introducing the concept of the modern diamond engagement ring, and became an integral part of pop culture as a result of popular films such as Breakfast at Tiffany's. It is worth mentioning that the jewellery sector is one of the fastest growing areas in the luxury industry, growing by 7% in 2018, the year before LVMH's initial offer was made. Tiffany & Co is a well-recognisable brand and is a major global player, especially in China where it is one of the most popular jewellery brands. Not only would the acquisition help LVMH widen their market share in a sector in which they are lacking, but it would also help the company reach a wider audience.
Good preparation is vital to succeed in a negotiation. It is clear that both parties were well prepared and considered the 3 areas of preparation. Self-assessment. Both parties appear to have set target and reservation points. LVMH had a target of 120 and a reservation of 135 per share. Tiffany had a target of 135 and a reservation of 130 per share. This created a positive bargaining zone for parties to reach an agreement rather than resort to their BATNAs. Other assessment. It is important to consider the other party and what their interests might be. LVMH knew of Tiffany's declining performance and their desire for financial support. Tiffany, on the other hand, was aware of LVMH's goal to expand its brand portfolio and become more competitive in the luxury jewellery sector. Situation assessment. In order to be well prepared, it is important that negotiators look beyond the parties at the table and consider the circumstances surrounding the negotiation. LVMH recognised this negotiation as one of opportunity. While some people can shy away from negotiations of opportunity as they feel they don't have the skills, this was not the case for LVMH, who are well experienced in such types of negotiation. Another question to ask is, are negotiations public or private? As they're both globally recognised brands, LVMH and Tiffany knew that their discussions would be covered in international newspapers. Aware that such reports could affect Tiffany's share price and that it could impact on their offers, it appears that both parties tried to keep most details of their negotiation private.
In the negotiation environment, there are normally 2 types of negotiations that can occur: distributive and integrative. Distributive negotiations would normally result in a high amount of conflict and compromises are difficult to achieve. There is never a sign of a win-win negotiation that occur from this type of negotiation. This negotiation between LVMH and Tiffany's definitely leans towards a distributive negotiation. From the get-go, there was disagreements from both LVMH and Tiffany initially over stock price, as LVMH offered $120 per share, but Tiffany felt this was far too low, and this disagreement set the tone for the rest of the negotiation. Constantly throughout, there was arguments and concerns over elements of the deal, such as price of the actual takeover. Once again, the first offer was too low for Tiffany's liking at $14.9 billion, and even when a price was eventually agreed, it got to the point where Tiffany wanted to file a lawsuit due to LVMH having second thoughts on the overall deal. The negotiation left all parties involved in doubt, making the relationship between the two tense, and it was easy to tell that even if a deal was on the cards, that a win-win scenario was deemed unlikely. Let's look at the negotiation style used by both parties. It is clear that LVMH and Tiffany have different motivational styles. LVMH had a competitive motivational style. It is clear that LVMH engaged in competitive negotiations by aiming to maximise their own profit, as their first offer of $120 per share was low, but was instantly re-anchored by Tiffany's. Tiffany, on the other hand, appeared to have more of a cooperative motivational style and seemed to want to minimise the differences between both outcomes. Information exchange is an element of cooperative negotiation. This was evident when Tiffany allowed LVMH to examine their financial records. However, at times, they can be perceived to be overly cooperative. Shell advises that in order to avoid being overly cooperative, parties should insist on commitments and not just agreements. Tiffany failed to do so and almost reached an impasse, as they were perhaps overly trusting in LVMH to follow their merger agreement.
The external environment can have a big impact on negotiations. Thomson 2014 states that negotiators must be prepared to adapt to environmental conditions during times of uncertainty. The COVID-19 pandemic quickly impacted the global economy, and typical consumer behaviour was forced to change due to lockdowns. Tiffany, a company who is highly dependent on the performance of their high street retail stores, experienced a dramatic decline in their performance. As a result, their share price value decreased. Due to the new environment and Tiffany's lower value, the dynamic of the negotiation changed, which created tension and conflict. Both parties used different approaches to try to resolve this conflict. LVMH exercised their power to try get out of the negotiation, while Tiffany's used the rights approach to try get LVMH to return to the table. LVMH used their position of power and status in their home country of France, and the French government got involved. The French government asked for the deal to be delayed until January 2021 due to ongoing disputes between them and the US government. Tiffany's used a rights approach by filing a lawsuit against LVMH for not following the initial merger agreement. They also signalled that they would consider a lower price of $132 per share instead of $135. This mixed message comprising of rights and interest approaches could have been an attempt to refocus on interests. Although it immediately appeared that LVMH responded to this message with a rights approach by filing a countersuit, it did lead to both parties returning to the negotiation table and renegotiating the offer of $135 per share to take into account the new environmental conditions. They reached an agreement on $131.50 per share and a deal was finalised. What was the outcome of this negotiation? At the end of 2020, both parties finally reached an agreement and settled on $131.50 per share. While this is an increase from LVMH's initial low offer of $120 per share, it is a decrease from the $135 that was on the table pre-COVID. This $15.8 billion deal is the largest deal that LVMH has ever made and is also the largest deal in the history of the luxury industry. At the start of this year, the merger came into effect. LVMH is now the sole owner of Tiffany, meaning that it is no longer a public company. While this negotiation was distributive and the pie was not expanded, both parties appear to be happy with the slice that they each received. For LVMH, the acquisition allowed them to expand its brand portfolio and add to their limited range of jewellery businesses. Owning Tiffany gives LVMH greater potential to remain competitive in the luxury jewellery industry. Tiffany CEO also spoke positively about their cut of the pie, stating that the acquisition would bring financial benefits and it would help to strengthen the Tiffany & Co brand.